Yo, Thought Warriors. What is up? Higher Learning is on. It is I, Van Lathan Jr.
And it's me, Rachel and Lindsay.
Rachel, how was your week?
It's funny. I knew you were going to ask me that. And I was thinking about that earlier. I'm like, what did I do this weekend? It was good. Why is it you can never remember what you did during the weekend? Oh, okay. Friday. I went to work, and I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but the dogs are giving me hell. Every month, it's either Copper or Brownie. Poor Copper hasn't been able to control his bowels for 3 days. Mm-hmm. And I come home and just completely destroyed the house. Mm-hmm. Poor guy. Can't be mad. He's sick. Finally took him to the vet. All the tests came back normal, but he's dehydrated, obviously. So got him checked out, got some meds. He was fine. Went to dinner with some of Brian's friends, but one of their friends came.
The chat?
The thread. And no. Okay. No. This is a friend that he met here, Doctor, shout out to Dr. Sandra and his wife, Cindy. They're expecting. And then he met his other friend, Art. But their Art's black. I feel like the way he said it, I feel like I had to say
his name is Art.
That's the way he said it. I'm sure. Anyways, one of their friends was in town for the baby shower, and turns out she was my sister's friend at Spelman. And I remember her because 15, like I'm all wide eyed and everybody is just so impressive to me. I mean, she still really is. But anyways, saw her again, met her husband. That was cool. Went to their baby shower on Saturday and really just chilled. Yes, I did the Oscars, but not like I normally do. I wasn't on the carpet with arrivals. I did a fashion recap after it was over.
The fashion recap after it was over. So you weren't on the carpet with the arrivals.
I was on the carpet after everybody left and they were packing up.
Why did it change? Why weren't you on the carpet?
I don't know, Van.
You don't know.
I don't know, Van. Guess they wanted to change it up this year.
We'll leave it there.
What did you do this weekend?
Not a particularly good weekend for me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. David Ellis, who is my uncle, my mother's brother, he died on Saturday. My mother's, one of my mother's brothers, my two brothers, my Uncle David, my Uncle Hal. Uncle David had cancer and he passed away. And it was, it's interesting. He taught me how to swim, right? Mm-hmm. And him and I had spoken a couple of times since he had been sick. He had gone to hospice care, and the way he was talking and the way that some of the conversation was going, I don't know why I felt like he was going to be okay. But if I would really been thinking about it, my mother and my grandmother were spending an increasing amount of time at his side and trying to make him comfortable. So he became an ancestor on Saturday, and it's difficult. It's hard for my mom and it's hard for my grandmother. My grandmother's birthday is on the day that this podcast releases. So happy birthday, Momo, on the 14th. It's hard because it's difficult to see somebody that was so like full of life, which he was. He lived very hard, as men in my family, as Southern men tend to do. He liked to have himself a drink. He had some, I guess you'd say, run-ins with the law throughout his life. But he was my uncle, this big, tall, beautiful, slender black man. I posted a picture of him. He had his locks out. He looked like what you would consider to be Black Jesus, looked like. And so, my mom is obviously going through a lot of stuff, and my grandmother's going through a lot of stuff, losing a child, my grandfather as well. But all of these conversations that you have in the midst of somebody's transition just really refocus like what you want your life to be and what I want my mother's life to be. The men in my family on both sides come into the world and like just bite chunks of it off. They do everything. They live hard. They womanize. They do the things that they do. And then the women outlive them. My Uncle David died in his 60s. My dad died in his 60s. My Uncle Charles died some years ago in his 60s. My Uncle Mark, my dad's brother, died. He was 55. So these are hard-living Southern men that come in there and they bounce around and then they're gone. And the women of the family, my mother, my grandmother, my sister, my aunt, Gavin's mom, Gigi, my youngest brother's mother, all they outlive these guys. And so for the rest of their lives, they have to have conversations with ghosts and kind of relitigate these men's entire lives. While the entire time they were here, they held their secrets and they bailed them out of jail and they visited them in prison. It's just, I talked to my mother, even with some people that are still around, it's just a non-stop life of emotional sacrifice. And it extends beyond the grave. So it's interesting. And it's also interesting watching this generation of people move on into eternity, because it represents like a dying of a certain portion of your life. It's like the 80s are dying almost. And, the further we move along, the 80s will, but it's like the 80s are dying. Like all of these guys who were around me during that time, they're gone. So I really need to, in a big way, focus on my mother and my grandmother and my sister in terms of the experiences that they still have left, that they can still have. My mom has so much living to do. My grandma has so much living to do. But I want to make sure it's on their terms, because they're always fretting about somebody else, But my Uncle David, he wouldn't have wanted me to lie about him. That's not how he did it. I remember one time we were watching Mike Tyson fight, and Mike Tyson had lost to Evander Holyfield, and the whole house was shocked. We were still holding on to hope that Mike was in some way invisible, and the whole house, oh my God, Evander Holyfield just whooped the shit out of Mike Tyson. Uncle David goes, all right, you're going to kill him in the rematch. Okay, so the rematch comes back over to the house. And Vander's beating Mike's ass again, and Mike bites him, right? And Uncle David goes, well, Tyson's a bum. Then he looks at his girl, he goes, woman, grab me a Budweiser, the king of beers, because I am the king of my castle. And all of my friends, we started laughing. He was drunk and going up. He was just, he was drunk. He came in, we was listening to No Limit. He turned it off and he was like, I'm about to put on some Confunction, some Parliament Funkadelic, some P-Funk, My Uncle David was the first way that I realized that women sometimes cheat on their husbands. True story. Me and my father in Dallas, Texas, we were staying with my grandmother, and me and my dad went, but one of my mom's friends, she was having some work done in her house, and me and my dad went to go do the work. And we poured some concrete in the front. My dad taught me how to expose the concrete. So if you want the concrete where you can see all the rocks and all of that stuff, you pour the concrete and you run the hose over and you can see all the pebbles. It looks cool or whatever. So we're doing a little exposed walkway up to their house, a little quick job. And my mom's friend is there. Me and her husband are talking about all kinds of stuff. Oh, you like He-Man, huh? Blah, 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 blah. He's being a nice guy. So I see her. Like a week later, I walk in the house and she's curled up with Uncle David on the couch.
Oh.
Maybe like 7, 8, something like that. And I'm like, huh, how does that work? And then I'm trying to listen to a Stevie Wonder tape. I pop the Stevie Wonder tape in and I hear a tape that Uncle David, a mixtape that he's made for her, where he's saying her name. This song is for you, baby.
No, no, man.
I swear. No. 80s music. Donnie, bleep that name out. It's like, this song is for you. And I'm like, huh. I asked my dad. I was like, Dad, what's with Uncle David and Mama Friend? He was like, you know what's going on?
He's right. If you gotta ask, you know.
He's like, you know what's going on? Unc didn't care. Next time I saw him, I was looking at him through a glass prison wall. And got in trouble some kind of way up in California. We would visit him. And that's how I saw a lot of those guys, man. Where they were raised in hell. And when they weren't raised in hell, they were inside of hell. So it's interesting. Just, a lot of scars, man, in these deep Southern families. A lot of scars. But he'll rest well. He didn't leave anything. He ate all his food. So rest in peace to my Uncle David. And
rest in peace.
I have to some way tell the story of the women in my family. Me and my mom had a conversation earlier, and it's just so nuts what they've had to go through. It's crazy. It's really insane, So I don't
know. Black women handle a lot and they sacrifice a lot. And I imagine that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like Mom broke down some stuff and I'm always learning new shit. Sometimes
isn't that crazy when you get older and you're able to have these conversations with your family? For me, I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm like despite my dad's family is very conservative and very, very private. Like it's too private. My mom's side is very open, but despite how open they are, they keep a lot of secrets. And as I get older, stuff slips out where I guess they just get comfortable and they don't necessarily mean to. But then, I'm older. I'm in a different place in my life. So they will talk to me about certain things. And I don't know about you, but I'm like, man, if you had told me that, do you know how that could have helped me when I was younger? If I could have known, I'm not saying you got to tell family business, but it could have let me know that I can make mistakes too. That everybody's not perfect. Like I felt like my elders were put up on to be almost like a deity and to know that they were out here in certain ways. I'm just saying, I'm not saying you got to tell everything, but also the shame or maybe like the guilt that you may feel about doing certain things that you realize we all do. Everybody's doing stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think I see in families like mine, it's especially more so in families like mine, they're always looking for somebody that's going to ascend, right? And kind of drag people along with them in whatever way. I think sometimes that's why talent is so difficult for us to turn our back on. in the Black community. Like, if you can really sing,
a lot of sense.
if you can really move, if you can really run that football, we accept some of the bullshit that might come with it if you can really dance, because it's like talent is the one thing that has the opportunity to break these generational curses. Like, you might bring a whole bunch of people with you to LA, or you might change the family or whatever. And they try to, at least from my experience, they try to keep those things quiet so that they don't cast extra spells. They don't want to talk about that stuff because they're too busy trying to make you believe that your existence in some way is going to be the one that's going to change everything. They don't want you to know how people fucked up in the past because they don't want you to think it's okay to make those same mistakes. They want to pretend like the mistakes never happened. And there's like this generational secret keeping that everyone thinks is in some way beneficial to not talk about this stuff. And if we don't talk about it, it'll go away, and then you won't do it. And if you don't do it, then somehow we'll all be better off. But what ends up happening is certain people have to live with the secrets, because a lot of these secrets that we're talking about, they aren't. There's your garden variety family secret, right? Your hey, I'm seriously, that's not really your cousin, right? And I've had that one a bunch of times over. Like my grandpa, my grandfather, my Uncle David's dad is not biologically related to me. Like my grandmother had my mom, and then she married him. I didn't learn that for years and years and years. Like literally years and years and years, I did not know that. And then, my mom finds her dad. He was, I think I've told you guys, he was like it was just described as a guitar player and something like that. It's, he's played the guitar, and then all of a sudden, he played the guitar, and then all of a sudden, baby pops out. Whatever. So finds that guy, and in 2000, whereabouts that he comes, we meet him. We meet all of his children. They look exactly, she looks just like him, all his people. And we're all going to be one happy family. They fucking disappear. Never see him again. At least not me. Mom might have. They're gone, And the guy who's my grandfather is like, that's the grandfather that I know. The thing about it, though, is that, some of the secrets are just like that. And then some of the secrets are abuse.
Yeah.
And some of the secrets are rape. Some of the secrets are incest. Some of the secrets are financial usury. Some of the secrets are with $20,000 for the house, never seen them again. Some of the secrets are really, really tough stuff. Yeah. And you learn it. And, and like I said, it's been a rough couple of years, like losing these people, losing my dad, losing my uncle, but it's also, man.
But it doesn't change how you see them, right? Because you grew up looking at them a certain way, and that's how you see them. At least that's how it's been for me. Certain things that I've learned, whether they're with us now or they're not, I guess they'll forever be a certain way in my mind.
Nah, it changes.
It depends what it is. No, some of the stuff hasn't changed for me.
And
I can almost relate to almost every single thing that you said.
Some of the
with
shit,
family.
It changes it for me. Like I told Mom this morning, I was talking to Mom, we were having a conversation. I'm like, why do you do this? Why do you, how could you do this?
Protect it?
It's not even protecting it. It can't be possible for someone to be that. How can I say it? It's impossible for somebody to just fucking take that many body blows. It's just like, from everyone you ever loved, just like a left hook, a right hook, a body shot, a boom. And then they die without ever having, they don't even give you no ice. You know how like a boxer, when they're in the corner, they got the end swell, And you would expect that if somebody was beating you like that emotionally, that at least they come and put the Inswell shit on you. They put the Vaseline on you. They try to, they die and you're left there with all of this stuff trying to figure out how to like heal your own wounds. And it's like, it didn't start with my dad. She learned how to do that way before. Like she learned how to do that. It was almost like you had to learn how to take punishment to be like a lady in my family. Like you had to learn how to take punishment. It's nuts. It's nuts, man. But rest well, Uncle David. As far as he's concerned, I loved him. He was just the coolest guy in the world. He was just super cool. You know? He could, if it was so funny when he would get like his dander up, when he would really get into a conversation. It was very reminiscent of me. I think I'm very reminiscent of him. I think when people see how like I get into something and I start getting really into it, that's because what I would see is these guys having these conversations about what I watch him get into an argument with somebody about what a host stroll in Los Angeles was. It's on the job site because my Uncle David had some issues. My Uncle David once hit a dude with a hammer in the head with a job site, cost my family $50,000. You know, they got into it on the job site. My Uncle David worked for my dad. He picked up the hammer, boom, hit the nigga in the head. Dude sued us, sued the place we were working for, really hurt my father's business. Like, seriously. Like, hurt our family, but it was like, that's just how he was. He picked up a nigga, hit him in the head with a hammer. It's David Ellis. But I was on one job where they was arguing about what a host stroll was in L.A. And it was talking about, nah, man, you go to Figueroa. Nah, man, you go to Imperial. Nah, man, you go here, you go there. And I'm like, who fucking cares? And then I became that guy. All right. I became the guy who could endlessly argue about something.
You would absolutely have that conversation.
All right. Big deal of the day. Don't really have one. There's some big issues to talk about. We'll get to them. But on the side of this, we're going to give you some Oscars talk. Started with something like that. Okay. Did you watch the Oscars? Did you get a chance to watch the show?
I watched the Oscars. I've been talking about it all day.
What did you like?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy was good.
I thought Jimmy was great.
Yeah.
I really did. And obviously, you know, like they work on material before, but I felt like he was also saying jokes based on literally what was happening in the moment. So I don't know. He just seemed to be quick with it. It landed right. There wasn't any moment where I was like, ooh, no. It was I really enjoyed him hosting it. You know, listen, I do awards season from January to now. The Oscars, the last ceremony. By the time you get to the Oscars, I'm like, let's go. Let's let this be over with. It's a long ceremony. It's 3.5 hours. It's a lot of, we forgot, right? Because what happened last year? You forgot how long it is, how you watch these awards with editing and sound that aren't as sexy as the big awards, but it was cool. Some moments were shocking. Some of the winners were a little shocking. And I will say, you know, before we get all into it, typically you can look at who wins the Globes, the Critics' Choice, the SAGs, who's getting that clean sweep to determine who's going to win that big award at the Oscars. But this year, it seemed to be all over the place. You know, call it great individual performances, call it great movies, whatever it may be, people who were well overdue for their moment. But I don't think anybody really knew who, except for Ke Huy Quan, I don't think anybody just really knew who was going to take home those big awards. So it was shocking when some of the announcements were made.
I think that people thought that Everything Everywhere All at Once would do well early on, but the movie came out like such a long time ago that there have been performances that came out after, particularly Angela Bassett's performance in Wakanda Forever, Cate Blanchett's performance in Tar. And you'd see some of these performances and you'd be like, okay, well, these people are going to catch up to what we saw with Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it had been a while since the movie had come out. And then, people had their favorites. I enjoyed this Oscar ceremony more than others because they had, well, I thought that it was a little bit less stuffy. Cocaine Bear was out there, stuff like that is kind of what I like. A donkey. Like it wasn't stuff. What I don't like sometimes about the ceremony is how serious everything is. It's you win the Oscar. I even make fun of Trayvon about his speech when we won. We get up there and it's kind of like, please see us. Like, hey, the award, come to the party. We're waiting for you. We got the champagne on ice.
And we were.
We got the champagne on ice. Remember our Oscar party and how joyous it was and all of that? It's a really great time. So I like the fact that the awards were a little bit more fun. There's always going to be some controversy, no matter, not like last year, no matter what happens, there's always going to be some controversy. But I enjoyed it for the most part. Angela Bassett did not win.
She did not.
For Wakanda Forever. She lost to Jamie Lee Curtis from the movie that swept everything. I mean, we're talking about Best Actress, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Editing. The movie won all of the above the line Oscars for performance and all of that stuff. It won everything that it was nominated in. Of course, it had no Best Actor submission, but it won everything that it was nominated for, pretty much. So the people were pissed. Angela Bassett didn't win, and when the camera was on them, when they were in their boxes, and that J sound came out, Angela Bassett made absolutely 0% effort in hiding her disappointment with the fact that she did not win the award.
I think you're exaggerating, but keep going.
How could I be exaggerating? You could watch
0% effort and how disappointed she was?
For sure.
Okay, keep going.
Wait, hold on. Let's stay here. You think?
No, I know she was disappointed. I guess I'm hearing how you're saying it, and I think to me, it plays into the media frenzy that has just captured, taken this moment and ran with it. And it's just so disappointing to me. When I look, obviously she's disappointed, right? For me, I'm like, forget this PC stuff. This is a woman who we know deserved an Oscar years ago for her performance. She comes back with this opportunity.
For what?
What's love got to do with it?
Okay, do me a favor real quick. So you think she deserved the Oscar for that? You're ready to say deserve?
I think she deserved an Oscar for What's Love Got to Do with It.
All right. Tina
Turner.
Who were the other people she was up against?
Don't remember.
Year? So
Don't
then
care.
How can you say that?
Well, why does it matter? Okay, let me look it up. I'm not going to change my opinion.
What they are. I can already tell you what they were.
Okay, tell me.
But it's a competition. She was up against Holly Hunter for the piano. She was up against Emma Thompson. She was up against Deborah Winger in Shadowlands. She was up. So, and I think maybe
I'm not saying that she wasn't up against a stiff competition. That doesn't take away from my opinion that I believe she deserved to win for that performance.
But she has to win over somebody. So
Van, what are you doing?
What I'm doing is this. What I'm saying is when we talk about the awards, it can't be there's this sort of nebulous idea of deserve, right? Like, is a performance deserving of an accolade? Well, it depends. In a competition where you're judging performances against other performances, you would have to say that she was better than all of those people, which means that you would have had to have seen all of those movies And you'd at least have to know, and that's kind of, I think, how we set ourselves up for disappointment. And we set ourselves up for disappointment by saying, oh, she deserved this. Well, if you're going to say that, then you have to say why, right?
Well, here's my thing. Did I see every single movie in that category? Absolutely not. It's me. We know that at this point. However, I'm giving my opinion, right? So maybe my opinion isn't correct to you because I haven't seen every single one, but I could have seen that movie and I could have said, I think that she deserves it. I could have seen every movie and been like, I don't think that her performance was based on it because I didn't like the way. I'll use the category that said issue with this current Oscar. I could have seen every single movie, right? And just been like, I didn't like the way Jamie Lee acted when she had those long fingers in the movie. And it's not based on anything that's profound or anything. It's just my opinion. So I don't think that can change the fact that I think that she did so outstanding. I think it's very hard to play somebody else. I think that was an incredible role for her. And I think she should have won. Fine. Like, I'm not you. I'm not the movie critic. You can say that I'm not doing things the way I'm not into movies that you.
My only criticism of what you're saying is that
But I would have probably watched all those movies. I probably wouldn't have liked them the same. And I still would have said, I feel like she deserves to win it because she's black. It could be, my opinion can be rooted in whatever I want. I liked her wigs in the movie. I'm just saying, I didn't have to watch it.
So your opinion can be rooted.
It's just an opinion.
Your opinion can be rooted in whatever you want. It doesn't have to be rooted in any discernible fact or any sort of actual. So you can just, for whatever reason, you can just think something.
I just wanted her. I felt like she was deserving of it. I liked the movie. I loved her performance. It is what it is. It's not, I mean, I get what you're doing, but great. The only reason why, great. I didn't see all the movies. My opinion doesn't mean
the only reason why I'm doing it is because sometimes I think this has to do specifically with the way that the Oscars work and to a different situation. Because remember, we had this same conversation with Beyonce. Remember,
but I didn't say to you, did you listen to all these albums, even though you felt like Beyonce should have?
But here was the thing that I was saying with Beyonce. What I was saying with Beyonce is number one, I did think that Beyonce's album was better than Harry's House. Okay,
but you didn't listen to every album.
I didn't. But the only reason why I was listening to I was talking about that with Beyonce was that if you'd have asked me why, I'd say I thought that at this particular point, her having been nominated for Album of the Year this many times, and I don't think that Beyonce deserved it. I wanted her to win it. I don't think that she deserved. You felt like
Beyonce should have won.
I felt like it was her time, right? I felt like it was her time.
That's a deserve. It's not. It's like some. It's very similar, man.
It's close, but this is what I'll say. And to be honest with you, you in ways persuaded me after that. You persuaded. Well, I was like, well, you know what? I did.
To Bad Bunny.
Yeah, because of Bad Bunny. Like, you persuaded me. I was like, okay, cool. So, but when I think in this situation with her, which by the way, she didn't clap. She didn't clap.
Can I ask you what you're basing her not clapping on? Because what I saw was, we saw the box, we saw the announcement. Of course, her co-star Stephanie's going to be super excited for her. We saw the other women clap, but it was like for 3 seconds. Do we know if Angela clapped after that? So do we know? Was the camera on her the whole time? I'm just saying.
Okay. Everybody else clapped.
And at that time, yes, they did. Right. Yes, they did.
If she didn't clap right away, which it's customary to do, it's probably because she was disappointed. What's so controversial about that?
No, it was how you were like, she was extremely disappointed. It looked like
she was extremely disappointed.
I agree that she was disappointed, and who wouldn't? To me, you know why it didn't bother me? Because I just felt like
it didn't bother me at all.
Okay, I guess for me, good for Angela for being disappointed and saying, I'm not going to clap. Or from what we saw, I'm not going to clap. From what we saw, I'm not going to stand up. Wow, I thought I was going to get it. For the 3 seconds that it was on me, I'm thinking about, damn, I thought I had a chance. And then they switch the camera back to Jamie and she goes up and accepts her speech. Good for Angela for being human in the moment and not focusing on what I need to do right now is clap because the camera's on me. I'm actually allowing myself to feel whatever I'm feeling because I thought I was going to win and I didn't.
Do you think that it's a criticism of her that she was disappointed? You think that's a criticism?
No.
Do you think so? So if I say she was obviously disappointed, and then you say she wasn't disappointed.
It was the way you were saying it. I guess I'm super sensitive about it.
She was definitely you were like, disappointed.
Extremely. And I guess I've just all day, I've just been listening to people talk, whether it's on social media, online, or at work, of like Angela Bassett and, you know, how dare she respond in that way, and just looking for a moment. And I'm not saying you were doing that. I guess it just triggered me. You didn't do that. It just triggered me.
So here's the thing. It's like, I don't give a shit about what people's opinion of her being disappointed is.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did we think she was disappointed, but they were consoling her from the stage. You know, like going up there, hey, you know what I mean? People thought that
you think that Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors saw her reaction, or they just saw the fact that she didn't win?
I think that they knew and they assumed that.
Of course, that she's upset.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Angela Bassett, and I'm not trying to be, because it really doesn't matter in the long run, right? It matters.
Actually, it does to me. But keep going. I'll tell you. No. Go.
No.
The way that people look for an opportunity to criticize a Black woman who literally, I'm serious. I'm serious. Did you see the article in the New York Post?
Why didn't you have this same, why didn't you feel the same way about Beyonce? Why'd you give Beyonce?
Because she fucking made history by winning.
Why'd you give Beyonce, why did you not feel any sort of sympathy for Beyonce, who is a Black woman as Black women go?
She made history. It'd be different. You know what? My speech would have been the same if they would have stopped Beyonce from getting the Grammys to make the history and she didn't win Album of the Year. Then I would have had a lot to say. But I don't want to take away from the fact that she made history. I guess she didn't get the Grammy that everybody wanted her to get, and she herself to take her over to the top and make history. But I'm not going to she also made history, period. Yeah. So but that's why I'm not coming in with that same passion.
But there are levels to this. Album of the Year is a recognition of singular excellence above everyone else across all genres of music, right? It's the Grammys are so much more specific than the Oscars. It's best R&B sung duo. So you're up against your peers of your peers of your peers. We know that Beyonce is the best in what she does, right? But is Beyonce the best total? Overall, Outkast wins Album of the Year. Outkast is put out the best musical product of the year, period. And that's a different level of prestige than all of the other stuff. I think Beyonce would probably give back 5, 10 of her other Grammys to have Album of the Year.
You're assuming that because she does have a title. And she does have a title. Let's not take that away from her. But I don't want to relitigate the Beyonce thing. What I'm saying is, no, seriously, I'm telling you, if she had not won that night when she was so close, I would have had a lot to say. Anyways, Angela Bassett here, the way that people are talking about her plays into our automatic. I just feel like non-Black people look for an excuse to stereotype specifically Black women. And that is what I saw happening to Angela Bassett. Do you think Angela Bassett is the first person to not clap in her category when she didn't win? I don't think so. But they're making such a big deal about it. Angela Bassett does almost everything right. She is so classy, so sophisticated, doesn't ruffle any feathers, says like she's I'll say something else. She's good at what, so she's great at what she does. And the first opportunity that she does something that's a little bit off that line, people are ripping her apart. And that's why it offends me. And that's what I have a problem with. The moment that you don't do something exactly like you're supposed to, to be a good Black woman, they rip you apart. And to me, they were just waiting for an opportunity to do that. And that's what I don't like to see with Angela Bassett. Who else was in that category? If Carrie Condon didn't clap, I don't think it would be as big of a deal.
Let me tell you something right now. If Angela Bassett would have won that award and Jamie Lee Curtis would have not clapped for her and looked in a way that showed outward disappointment, we would have torn her motherfucking ass up. And that is 1,000,000% facts. If Angela Bassett, if they call Angela Bassett,
would we have done
Wakanda Forever, and then she goes up on the stage to win, and Jamie Lee Curtis, Jamie Foxx is crazy, and Jamie Lee Curtis had. By the way, I just want to make sure people know this. I don't think anything about Angela Bassett being disappointed. It's cool. I have no problem with it. She was definitely disappointed, though. I have no problem with it. I don't think it means anything about Angela Bassett. She was disappointed. I don't think it means anything about Angela Bassett. I don't think, none of that. But I'm just saying.
Why would Black people have done that? Why would Black people have come after Jamie?
They would have come after her because they would have felt like Jamie Lee Curtis was not being congratulatory enough to Angela Bassett because she won. That it was Angela Bassett's moment.
Do you think race would have had anything to do with it?
Certainly. And race has something to do with it now. But what?
Race has something to do with Angela not clapping for Jamie?
No. Race has something to do with the way people are reacting to it. But when I'm saying it, like race has, it has nothing to do. Race has something to, you just said that. Race has something to do with the way people are reacting to it, right? To me, looking at whether or not she did it or not, it just kind of is what it is. But people are going, oh, if you're saying, hey, people are expected, Black people are more expected to act on their best behavior when they're at a place like the Oscars. Eddie Murphy lost years ago. I think it was Alan Alda that he lost to Little Miss Sunshine. I can't remember, maybe Alan Arkin, maybe one of those guys. Can't remember who it was. He lost for Dreamgirls. Eddie clapped. When he lost, he clapped. The camera was right there on him. People thought that this was going to be the moment that Eddie Murphy was going to win his Oscar, and it was going to be the whole deal. Eddie clapped. But after that, Eddie got up and he left the ceremony.
I remember that.
Like he did not win. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Eddie left the ceremony, right? And people were mad about that. People were like, oh my God, it's sore loser, blah, 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 blah. I think there's something else that we have to remember. As Black performers, they know that their opportunity to win Oscars and to be minted in this way it's a lot more scant than some of their contemporaries. And so it probably, like most other things, I mean, I don't want to say this, maybe it means more. Maybe it's a bigger. Well,
it's been 29 years. Yes.
Well, Jamie has never been nominated, and she was never going to be nominated because most of the movies that she has done over the course of her career weren't close to anything that was going to get her into the nominations. And she's an older actress as well. I don't potentially think, I don't really think that either of them was necessarily the best supporting actress of the year. I was rooting for Angela Bassett to win and wanted her to win strictly off tribalism. Say whatever you want.
Who did you think should have won?
I actually thought.
Did you see all the movies?
Yeah. I actually thought that either the young lady that played Jobu Tupaki in Everything Everywhere All at Once, who played the other role, because Jamie Lee Curtis.
Stephanie.
Well, she had more of a.
Yeah, she was like. I guess I don't want to give it away, but I don't know if it does because it's so trippy.
Yeah, but
the daughter.
So the daughter, I thought she should have won, or the young lady from The Well. And the
Hung Chow
from The Well. She was fantastic in that. She was really good in that. And The Well was a very tough movie to watch. So
I know I couldn't do it.
The Well was a very tough movie to watch. But yeah, it's like when Angela, did Angela bring it in Wakanda Forever? Yeah. Like, would I have loved to have seen her win? Yeah, but she didn't win, and she was mad. Not mad. Let me not say mad.
Disappointed.
She didn't win,
yeah, she was disappointed.
You know?
I think, can we just start the trend of reserving space for people to be disappointed they didn't win? Because that is a natural reaction. I don't believe your claps or you standing up. You're upset.
Just know that that's fine. But when, if the La La Land people wouldn't have clapped for Moonlight, y'all not going for that? I mean, I'm just being for real. It is,
I know, but the whole like Angela's shady and Angela is a bitch and we all, like we knew she was like this. It's like, come on, y'all. But that's what happens. You immediately start putting all those stereotypes onto Black women and having a field day with it. So yes, I do take it a little personal.
You feel like you take it very personal. You feel like but I do also think that we have to kind of start looking at kind of what these awards mean. Like this is what I mean by this. When I watched Angela Bassett not win last night, you know who I thought about? I thought about Quinta Brunson. She does Abbott Elementary, and she puts Shirley Ralph in it. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, in a way that most people hadn't been before, the entire world is, the entire world gets a firsthand look at what a fantastic performer Shirley Ralph is, which we already knew.
We knew.
And I think about the fact that one thing that separates Angela Bassett and Shirley Ralph from, say, Cate Blanchett or Meryl Streep or Frances McDormand or any of the other women that are perpetually nominated for these awards are the amount of time that they are given the opportunity to display their craft at a level that merits this type of consideration. And that's a larger cultural issue to me. It's the first time Angela Bassett got nominated for an Academy Award, she was playing Tina Turner in, one of the most moving biopics ever. All those years later, it happens that there's a movie and a filmmaker like Ryan Coogler that gives her the opportunity to flex her muscles in that same way. Meanwhile, if it's Nomadland, black female performers, is that we still don't have the type of filmmaking apparatus, in my opinion, where the roles are necessarily there, where the stories are either being recognized for how transcendent they are, or whether or not they're digging deep enough into different issues and different types of Black stories to where they're given the chance to go after it over and over again. And there are a lot of reasons why that's true. There's a couple of reasons. Is we took a whole in Black filmmaking, we took a whole 10-year Tyler Perry detour, and that's not a diss, it's just a fucking fact. And now we're to a point to where we need to kind of understand that we have as many talented performers out there, but we need to give them substance and subject material so they can go out there and show that.
But do you also think that there's some way that the Academy isn't recognizing these performances when they are in movies like this? Movies that got recognition where we didn't see these women nominated. Viola Davis in The Woman King, Danielle Deadwyler in Till. These were great performances that weren't even really in talks. They weren't even really on, working this award season. They weren't even on the short list. Maybe the movies were for other reasons, but it was the same people that you saw nominated at this award ceremony. So there are some times where these movies are there and these women still aren't getting honored, nominated.
I don't think The Woman King.
You don't think her performance was there? Okay.
It was good, but it was Viola Davis could be nominated every year. She's like a Meryl Streep. And it's going to also be hard for people. It's also going to be hard for people to really pick at Viola Davis being nominated because they give Viola Davis love, right? They give her the love. She gets.
I'm just saying there was a movie that was in talks. I mean, you already said that you didn't think Angela was for Black Panther.
She was good. It was good, but like, was it a type?
Then Viola could have gotten it for Woman King.
Well, what I'm saying is, was it the type of performance that was so incredible that you're mad if she loses? No.
Viola could have been nominated for Woman King. What were you about to ask me if I saw what?
Did you see Till?
I saw some of it. It's a little too rough for me. I'm sorry. But it didn't take away from what I saw of her performance. It's just, that's hard for me sometimes to watch those movies.
Angela Bassett.
I said I was going to circle back.
She's as good as an actress as there is on the planet. Angela Bassett needs creators of all kinds to make sure that the roles are there for her to be able to flex that. Her career, in my opinion, has been criminally underserved by the roles that Hollywood has to offer, you know?
Sure.
But look.
Maybe this will get people talking and acting.
So, but the Jamie Lee Curtis thing is like, you know, I was surprised.
I was too. I really thought, okay, they gave Jamie, because Angela won Globe. I thought they gave Jamie SAG because Angela was going to win it. The Oscars. You know, also though, is like the Oscars have been quietly rebelling against what they're supposed to do. Even at our ceremony, if you remember that night, Chadwick Boseman did not win for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Right. They've been quietly rebelling from what they're supposed to do and who they're supposed to give it to at the time that they're supposed to get it. You know, there are a couple of different ones where it happened. Brad Pitt, and, you know, a couple of different ones, but they're quietly, I don't know. I would have thought that this would have been a time that they would have kind of rewarded her for her entire career. But they didn't do it. The way that they've been getting around that is by giving people honorary Oscars. Now, they've always done that, though. Always. But I'm saying, of Angela Bassett, I hope this is not the case, but if she never has an opportunity to come back as a nominee, they'll give her an honourary Oscar. Yeah, that's their way of making up for it. I'm just pointing that out. That's the way I know it happens every year. I'm just saying that's the way I feel like that they feel like they're making up for it. I'm not saying it's right. Everybody knows that don't mean nothing, though. It don't really mean I'm saying correct. I'm saying that's just what I think they do. Just remember, this has happened before. Samuel L. Jackson has never won an Oscar before. And he has an honorary. Spike Lee just won his first Oscar, 4 or 5 years ago? And that seems insane. That seems crazy. Don Cheadle never won an Oscar before. You know, they gave Will won an Oscar. Right. Just won an Oscar in a movie where his performance loved Will Smith to death. It's a cartoonish performance to me. What would you say about the one Denzel won for? Training Day. But Denzel won before then as well. That was his second Oscar. Best actor. Yeah, well, right. Okay, same thing. Because people were saying he should have won for Malcolm X. Here goes. Sorry, deserved. Should have won for Malcolm X. Then whenever he gets it for Training Day. Whenever somebody says you should have won, you have to go back and look at what else was there. Right? You just have to. But I will tell you this. So Denzel won for Glory, right? I know this is about supporting. Yeah, he won for Glory. So I noticed this about slave movies, and that's why I kind of like the Woman King was probably wasn't going to get rewarded by the Academy. Slave movies where white people are in some way the hero. That's facts. I'm not denying it. So in the one, fuck up the slaver, beat us shit, you know what I mean? Even though, the homie were slavers as well. The black woman is the hero, boom, whatever. In 12 Years a Slave, they reward that movie, but if you remember in that movie, Brad Pitt ended up being the dude that passed the letter along. In Glory, Matthew Broderick
was this general who was against racism. Amistad, white people doing good. Even Django. There's people, they reward slave movies, but they really only reward slave movies that in some way make white people look good. If it's a movie just about niggas getting fucked over where there are no good white people, like Birth of a Nation, like however you guys feel about Nate, that movie was never going to get nominated for anything because there really wasn't a white savior in it. You see what I'm saying? I think to me, that is something that it's there, but people don't even see it. I was going back, I looked at The Woman King, I'm like, well, all of the heroes in The Woman King are black. There are no good white people. The white guy that you see is a bitch. And then they got that nigga that looked like Sarunas in it, and he not really about shit. But so they don't really do that. So if you want to make a movie, a slave movie, where it gets rewarded, you have to stick a good white person in it, or else they're not going to give you the award. It's just facts. You know, they want everybody to know, hey, there were some of us who were against it.
There were some of us.
But Angela Bassett must win. She looked amazing. Before we get off the Oscars, we have to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was a huge moment.
It was a huge moment. Huge moment. And you knew that not just from the win, but from the speeches from Ke Huy Quan and Michelle Yeoh. I mean, Key is like, can I just call him Key? I just did. Key, I mean, he's like America's sweetheart right now. Just his story, how he almost gave up. He talked about living the American dream, couldn't believe that he was here. And then Michelle Yeoh, two things. She talked about representation, and this was for little boys and little girls who look like her. But then she also said, don't let anyone tell you you're past your prime. And I love that. She's also representing for women, but an older generation of women who are still out here doing their thing and getting recognized for it. But the whole, you already named off multiple Oscars that they won. But it was a big night for Asian representation. Michelle Yeoh made history. Did Key make history?
What?
Did Ke Huy Quan make history?
Make history in what way? Like as far as winning as an Asian man?
Yeah. Did he?
He made history in being awesome.
He made history. He's the first actor to win for portraying a Mandarin, Chinese, and Cantonese speaking character.
Wow. There you go. You go. He made history too.
I appreciate two specific stories here. Three, really. I was blown away by the fact that Michelle Yeoh has never had any formal training in martial arts, which they talked about when she got up on this. That blew my fucking mind. Man,
she's a ballerina. Yeah.
The story of Michelle Yeoh and just how much she's meant to Hollywood and her winning this and having the opportunity. Once again, what you saw in Everything Everywhere All at Once was an older woman get the opportunity to kick ass and be mom. The role itself was revolutionary. That's why it produced revolutionary results. And creators have to think outside the box in the stories that they tell if they want all of these artists to be able to flex their muscles. Her, Brendan Fraser, and Key, man, look, what this industry put Brendan Fraser through, a guy who I spent my entire childhood with, a guy that went from heartthrob to comedy guy to action star to Gone, to come back and get the opportunity to stand on that stage and survive Hollywood and be at the top of it is fantastic. Couldn't be happier for Brendan Fraser. And man, when you watch the movie, there's so much coming from the portrayal of the husband's character in it. And when I'm sitting there looking, I didn't know at first, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. Is that Data? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, what the fuck? And to see him back after all of these years and to know that he left and he thought it was gone, it's just incredibly inspiring, you know?
Yeah.
The only way the night would have been perfect is if Angela would have won. But I'm serious. But I can't even be mad.
I agree with you.
I can't even be mad like Jamie Lee Curtis has been a staple as well. I just, I'm a tribalist. I wanted to see Angela Bassett win. She didn't win.
We all did.
Okay, Rachel, have you Donnie, what'd you put in the chat? Hold on for a second. What is this? Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah. When he was nominated in 95, he's on camera when he loses and he's like, shit.
Let me see.
Look. And the Oscar goes to Martin Landau and Ed Wood.
Oh, it's very funny. Also didn't clap. See? I'm looking at it right now. Like Martin Landau and Ed Wood.
But you know what? Everybody would have everybody would have said that was funny. Because it's Samuel L. Jackson.
So you're saying that they treated him in a different way?
Everybody would have said it was Samuel. Donnie, Ashley, do you think people would have said that was funny if Samuel did that impression?
Is it because of Samuel L? Or are you saying that it's
because of Samuel L, I think.
It's because of Samuel L.
But are you, so you're not saying it's like a black woman thing though, right? Is it black woman?
No. It's because, it's because it's him.
Yeah. And by the way, I felt like that performance deserved to win.
What was he nominated? What performance was he nominated for?
God damn, man.
95? What was that?
It's Pulp Fiction, dog. Come on, man.
Oh, Pulp Fiction.
Smack yourself, man.
Who are you saying deserved to win? Samuel or Martin?
Samuel. I think it was him. Right there. It was Gary Sinise, Martin Landau. All of those performances were good, but Charles Palminteri, I think that was Bullets Over Broadway. But if I remember. But yeah, I thought Samuel Jackson gave a culture-altering performance. But that's back when if you was going to win it as a black guy or a black woman, you had to be you had to go nuts. Back in them days, remember, Boys in the Hood didn't win shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to go nuts. Don Cheadle was not nominated for portraying Mouse in Devil in the Blue Dress. I still can't get over that one. It's crazy. Anyway. All right. Look, President Joe Biden is letting all you guys know that your money is safe. Your money is safe. United States of America. This is Joe this morning talking about the banking system, which people are very, very tense about.
Hey, thanks to the quick action of my administration over the past few days, Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe easier as well. Last week, when we learned of the problems of the banks and the impact they could have on jobs of small businesses and banking system overall, I instructed my team to act quickly to protect these interests. They've done that. On Friday, the government regulator in charge, the FDIC, took control of Silicon Valley Bank's assets. And over the weekend, it took control of Signature Bank's assets. Treasury Secretary Yellen and a team of banking regulators have taken action, immediate action. And here are the highlights. First, all customers who had deposits in these banks can rest assured they'll be protected and they'll have access to their money as of today. That includes small businesses across the country that bank there and need to make payroll, pay their bills, and stay open for business. No losses will be, and this is an important point, no losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the Deposit Insurance Fund. Because of the actions that our regulators have already taken, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them.
Rachel, have you heard about what happened to Silicon Valley Bank, and do you have thoughts?
I mean, yes, I've heard about it. A lot of it, to be very honest with you, and I'm sure most people feel this way, it goes over my head. I don't understand banking. I don't understand the way that banks make their money. My understanding is that, there was a mismatch on the assets and the liabilities. And because interest rates went up, it made the bank became insolvent. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but I think that is correct. I think Joe Biden, for me, even though without knowing much about banking, my fear was, okay, is this another bailout situation where the government gets involved? And then the other thing was, is this going to cost us money? Which he's saying it's not going to cost the taxpayers money. And I'm like, okay. But then I was reading an article that was talking about the people that were affected, because obviously when this happened, there were certain businesses that they were worried about how they were going to pay their workers. Mm-hmm. They were worried about how they were going to survive. And I was reading this article that was talking about Black female founders and that less than 1% of tech sector investment capital goes to Black female founders, and that they're underrepresented in this community. And they were grossly impacted by this because they don't have those large assets to draw on, because they don't get the same funding as, those who look like the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world. So it just made me think of what's going to happen to these Black-owned businesses, these female-led businesses who don't get the same type of funding. And are you going to bail them out? And how is this going to be divvied up? Are you just going to give it to everybody? Is it going to trickle down? Are you going to, specify who needs the bailout the most? Who needs help the most? Anyways, it's really all my knowledge on this.
I think that will eventually happen. I think that most people will be made whole in this situation. What essentially happened here, to the best of my knowledge, is that Silicon Valley Bank, which is a decent sized bank, was the 20th largest bank in the country or something like that. They finance a lot of startups. They, around 2020, late 2020 or whatever, after the pandemic, a lot of those startups had a lot of money. And because they were depositing the money in the bank, Silicon Valley Bank was like, okay, cool. Well, in order to make use of all this extra cash that we're getting, what we're going to do is invest it safely. We're going to invest it in some government bonds, right? So we're investing some bonds. The bonds are pretty solid. They're normally slower returns, but a less risky sort of way to ensure that your money is safe. Unless interest rates go up. If interest rates go up, which I guess they didn't see because the Fed interest rates went up because of inflation, those bonds then aren't so attractive. It changes the way that the money is kind of being made. Also, something else happened. A lot of there weren't as many startups that were flush with cash anymore because the economy had changed. So they're not getting cash infusions from startups anymore. And the interest rates have gone up, which means that the people that are banking with them, they want to get their money out. They're like, man, I'm not feeling great. Rather than have this money tied up and stuff, I want my money because I'm not so sure that the bank in the long run is going to be able to meet my needs. Well, that's a run on the bank. They then have to sell off some of their assets, $2 billion worth of assets, because more people are pulling money out because of different stuff, right? That causes a run on the bank. And when there's a run on the bank, they don't have enough cash on hand to meet the demand of everybody that's pulling the money out. Remember, they took some of the money, they put it in bonds and stuff like that. So the bank fails. In this situation, there are two things that the government's probably going to guard against. Number one, this is another massive L for capitalism, for the sort of unregulated, decentralized capitalism that certain political factions are in favor of. There was the Dodd-Frank Act that President Biden said this, and President Obama got passed, which caused banks to be a little bit more, how can I put it? There was this thing called, stress tests that the bank would have to go through to prove its solvency and all of that stuff. And under Dodd-Frank, there was a lot more regulation to that. You had to submit to stress tests more often. It was better regulated. But of course, Trump comes in and he peels back all of the regulations. So banks are kind of playing hard and fast and loose with the way that they're making their money, right? And that causes them to dive headfirst into the market. And if something changes, they lose. And when they lose, you lose. What's interesting to this about this to me is that the United States seems like, and whether it's a cash infusion or whether it's a takeover or whether or not the government gets involved to help a buyer what they don't want, to help find a buyer what they don't want to do, is they don't want to see this catch on. There's something called financial contagion, to where this can spread, and then all of a sudden you have all kinds of different problems with banks all over the place. Now, I will tell people this. A Silicon Valley Bank is a big bank, and there are other banks that are around that size. But their assets were, I think, around $200 billion or something like that, $250 billion. When you talk about the bigger banks failing, you talk about JP Morgan Chase and banks like that, it's like $3 trillion that the banks would have. So you're probably not going to have as much of a problem in an instance like that with a bank like this. But these things become murky when crypto gets involved. These things become murky when you have these sort of mid-sized banks who are maybe a little less risk averse. They want to play it a little bit more closer to the further away from the chest. And when there's not sufficient regulation or oversight, the people that always get hurt are the people that have their money in these institutions. Or no one gets hurt, because what saves the day is socialism. What saves the day is a government involvement in involvement in fixing capitalism.
Yeah.
And the question that I have is, when are we going to get to the point to where we understand that the type of imaginary money, the type of capitalism that we have now, flowing from place to place, is always going to lead to a situation to where people are put in harm's way, where the money that they've earned or made or raised is not available to them because of decisions by some financial institution or something else. There's going to be a cycle. I'm surprised that this didn't happen before now, to be honest with you. And I think that despite our best laid plans, if there is no sort of real attention paid to what it is that we're doing, we're looking at this happening again pretty soon, like in my opinion,
But do they, when it comes to the regulation of these banks, which you already pointed out, they're not doing, do they even, when it comes to Congress and voting on the type of regulations that would prevent this type of thing from happening, is that ever even going to happen?
They did.
What would happen?
It was undone. They did it.
Right. I'm talking about where we are right now.
After 2008. Yeah.
I'm talking about where we are right now. Like, is that even going to happen? What would it take? Another failure? I mean, if the government's going to continue to keep bailing them out, and then and taxpayers aren't impacted by it, is this going to be the vicious cycle that we continue in?
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see. Well, maybe we'll bring Mark back on to talk about this, since everybody loves him so much. Maybe we'll find somebody else. But yeah, the Treasury, the Fed, and the FDIC are all getting together, putting their big national central government heads together to make sure that all the deposits from Silicon Valley Bank, both insured and uninsured, will be paid in full. Because remember, they only insure your shit up to $250,000. So that means that 9/10 of the people that had their money in this bank were fucked. It's not funny.
Also, unsecured. Unsecured. Yeah. It's not fucked.
It's not funny. Of course, the left is blaming it on the woke. I mean, the right is blaming it on the woke politics, when literally it's their legislation, their sort of political and fiscal direction that caused this. But people don't care. No one gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck about the actual problem,
No.
Fix the bank. I tell you what.
The blame game.
It's the same. In this country, they allow, it's sink or swim for everyone except for them. It is. It's sink or swim. The rest of you guys, hey, get your asses out there and fucking make it. Get your shit together. Get off the government's teat. Get off the government's teat. And I'm sorry, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm railing against anyone that was doing business with Silicon Valley Bank, because I'm sure that those people were doing it in good faith. But all of these banks that fail, all of these industries that fail, the first thing they do is stick out their mouths for the teeth of the government. But try to feed a 6-year-old and watch what they say. Jesus Christ. Trump's people were all over Silicon Valley Bank, by the way. It's all his fault.
I'm sure.
Fox News, you trust them?
I mean, I think at this point, no. And I don't know if I ever did. No, I don't trust them.
So new documents that were released last week, so I guess they're kind of new. Tucker Carlson texted a colleague saying that he hates Trump passionately. So Dominion is closing in on Fox.
Say when he texted that.
Oh, I don't see it. You tell me. You give it to me. Give me the.
He texted him. First, he texted January 4th about can't wait for the day. January 4th, 2021. Right? Can't wait for the day that he can ignore Trump. Then he said he hated him passionately. Mm-hmm. And then days later, January 6th, 2021, he said that Trump was a demonic force and a destroyer.
So
Tucker Carlson, day of the riots.
So obviously this doesn't reflect the coverage of Donald Trump that you get on Tucker Carlson's show, because Fox News has made the conscious decision to not even attempt to be a journalistic organization and to be the mouthpiece for the far right. Actually, not even mouthpiece for the far right. They've made a decision to chase cash at whatever cost. Now, I don't want to holier than thou this situation, because at this particular point, I'm not sure if there are networks that aren't chasing cash.
Can I just say, you're right. Obviously, it's about them making money and you know, who's advertising on their networks, but it's got to be ethical. Right? Can we just say it's ethical journalism, right? It's striving to give information that's true and that's accurate and fair and that's thorough and well-researched, not just opinionated to satisfy your audience because you're afraid of losing ratings and you're afraid of losing viewers to another network. That can't be what it's about. So you're right. I just think, am I frozen or is Van frozen? Okay.
You were frozen.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what you heard, but it can't just be about those things. It's got to be about, I don't even remember what I was saying. I don't even remember what the last thing I said.
You're on your shit.
I was saying it can't be about satisfying your viewers for ratings and for clicks and for possibly losing them to another network. The ethics is what's at issue. But I want you to continue what you were saying.
No, I agree with you.
The lack thereof, I should say. Lack thereof.
Well, when I think about ethics in journalism, I think about my old shop.
Your old shop?
Yeah, my old shop, TMZ.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people would accuse TMZ of being unethical because of what ethics in journalism meant to those people. Meaning, paying for video was a murky sort of ethical question for a lot of people. What does it mean if you buy video? What does it mean if you pay for an interview? Is that ethical? Is it ethical to give money for the truth? Does that change people's sort of reasons for talking to you, their motivations for speaking with you? Does that change things? And that's something that you have to think about, right? Harvey was very open about the fact that he pays for video, pays big money for video. depending on what it is. Fox is, and there were also other ethical questions at TMZ. There were ethical questions about the slant on certain things. There were ethical questions about the truth of certain things. There were ethical questions about whether or not you should or should not be reporting on certain things. And when I say the truth about certain things, let me give you guys a little breakdown here. Just of something that happened. TMZ is often accused of lying about the death of Lil Wayne, of having killed Lil Wayne prior to what people thought was like a real death. Like TMZ killed Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne didn't really die. People think TMZ lied on Lil Wayne. Explain something to people real quick in case they don't know. The story was 100% true. The story never said that Lil Wayne was going to die. What the story said was that, and I didn't work this story. I was doing the tour at this time. But what the story said is that Lil Wayne was gravely ill and that someone was reading him his last rites or something to that effect. It was 10 years ago now, but I remember that to be the thing. There was a source very close to Lil Wayne that told somebody in our office that, hey, it doesn't look good, right? It doesn't. Sources say it's almost out of here. You know what I'm saying? Before Prince died, there was a source that told us on a plane, or told TMZ on a plane, that he had to be administered a Narcan shot. Like they had to give him a shot of Narcan. Yeah. And it was hard for people to believe. It's like, why would Prince need Narcan? Prince didn't seem like the type of guy to have like a substance abuse problem, right? Anyhow, when you have a source, if you source it and the source is good, the story is true. So if Brian tells me right now that you can't stop eating, that Rachel has turned the corner and all you want to do is eat sweets all day long, and it comes from Brian. If I'm a reporter and your husband says that, I can report source close to Rachel Lindsay says that she's eating everything in the motherfucking house. She can't stop eating. And even if you come out and say, hey, that's not true, the story's real because Brian really said that. Yeah. So when I say a source says this, it's facts. I mean, it's facts that the source said it. It's not facts.
Yes.
Or if a source said that somebody was going to get, if Brian told me, if your mom told me that you and Brian were separated, never going to happen, okay? But it's a good source. So these are all the type of ethical things that you can get into in the water of whether or not you should report that, what type of material you should source, what type of material you shouldn't source, whether or not you should pay for video, even whether or not something is slanted, the way you cook a headline, is it just clickbait? All of those things are actual things that are ethical that you can interrogate. Actually saying things that you do not believe,
right,
is a completely different ball of wax.
Mm-hmm.
And from the perspective of somebody that worked in a place that a lot of people that always was fighting to be respected as actual journalism, what I can tell you is that never happened there.
Mm-hmm.
There was never anything that went up there that was not thought to be real at the time that it happened. Now, even if TMZ did do Donald Trump's dirty work, and they did, but they were reporting stories on behalf of somebody that Harvey thought that they were real stories, they would just help Trump. That's a fact. But it's not like they didn't think that the stories were real.
Mm-hmm. What
Fox is doing right here, as far as my estimation of having looked at this, is unprecedented. This should be the biggest story in the world.
Yeah.
But the more telling story is that people don't care. That is so insane that people don't care, that this is all real, that Fox is a make-believe machine, and that it won't affect in any way how people view Fox News.
It's wild to me because it's two-sided, right? Either people don't care because they're like, that's just Tucker Carlson, that's just Fox News, that's what they do, or they don't care because they're not listening to people like us talk. They're not listening to the other side of it. They're just watching what they've been told. I mean, what they like to watch and what they've been watching forever. So they're not even privy to this type of information because Fox News isn't reporting it. And they're not seeking out that information because they're going to the network that's giving them the information of exactly what they want to hear. That's what's wild to me. But how can you, from the side of not caring and saying, oh, that's just Tucker Carlson and that's just Fox News, how can you say that when January 6th happened? We've seen people act on the lies of Fox News before. That's what I don't understand. How can you be so flippant about what Tucker Carlson and the Sean Hannitys and the other people who are the face of this network are doing when others have acted on it and you can't say that it won't happen? And if, for example, the video that's being shown, that's at issue, right? Tucker Carlson got all this 44,000 hours of video footage from Kevin McCarthy, and he puts together his own montage in this package of showing the peaceful side, and I use that with quotations, of that day on January 6th to show that there was an exaggeration. These people were actually peaceful as they were walking through the Capitol that day. It wasn't a riot. That video is now being used by one of the 5 Proud Boys who's on trial right now for seditious conspiracy in connection with the riot is using this video. His lawyer filed something in court to use this video as evidence for their case to show that they were peaceful on that day. This is how problematic this is. It's expanding past what Tucker Carlson is saying, and it's being used in the courtroom as evidence when we know it's a bold-faced lie. Yeah, more people should be talking about this. It's bad.
We didn't even talk. We talked about the Oscars for like an hour before we even talked about it. It's a big deal. Russell Brand was on Bill Maher. He compared it to MSNBC. Look, MSNBC, everybody gets things wrong at times, especially when we talk about science. But Fox News is purposefully lying to the American public for money.
Yeah.
The type of capture that Donald Trump has been able to accomplish over such a large portion of the American psyche, if it weren't so scary, it would be impressive. Like, Trump never, ever creates a winner. Everybody next to him like loses, but they just can't stop. And now Fox News, Fox defamation is hard to prove, but Fox News is in trouble here. They might actually have to pay up the 1.6 abele. It looks bad.
It has to happen. It has to happen for reasons we said on a previous podcast. It just has to. The state of journalism is almost on trial as well here. It's got to happen. That it's a free-for-all.
Before we get out of here, we have a fantastic interview with a guy who directed one of my top favorite documentaries of all time. His name is Sam Pollard. He directed MLK FBI, but he also has a brand new documentary out on the life of Bill Russell. Sam Pollard's going to join us on the other side of this break. All right, you guys, we have a very important piece of the culture, very important person in the culture, a very important person culturally on the podcast today. He's the creator of one of my favorite documentaries. I've told you guys in this podcast before how many times I've watched MLK FBI. I've watched it probably a half dozen times, and every time I watch it, I am floored by the insight and the bravery that it took to make it, and the bravery of some of the people that worked with Martin Luther King Jr. and the way that they talked very openly, but also Four Little Girls with Spike Lee, Sammy Davis Jr. documentary, and upcoming he is doing a documentary on Bill Russell, the late great Celtics legend, who recently passed away. This gentleman's name is Sam Pollard, and he joins us today on Higher Learning. How you doing, Sam?
I'm pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. My first question for you, I'm going to ask you about MLK FBI a little bit later because I do have some questions about that because I love it so much. But Bill Russell, you have the last interview with Bill Russell.
Yes, we do.
My question to you is, why is it important for people, particularly younger people right now, to care about Bill Russell?
Well, I think it's important because if you look back on the history of the NBA, Bill Russell, along with Chamberlain, really set the template for what is today's NBA, the National Basketball Association. I mean, they brought, along with other people like Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson, as Nelson George says, they brought the Black cultural aesthetic to the NBA, you know, which had before those guys came into the game, an all-white game, you know. So they changed the whole dimension of the game. And we've seen that with the African-American experience in football, in music, in language, in clothing, everything. You know, our imprint is strong. And that's why I think it's important. The other reason it's important that people know about Bill Russell is because he was an athlete, an African-American athlete, who took very strong social and political stances, which was something that athletes didn't do, white or Black, back then. So when you see a gentleman like Bill Russell at the March on Washington, when you see him go down to Jackson, Mississippi to support Charles Evers, when you see him involved in the Boston busing issues, when you see him along with, you know, the legendary Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Muhammad Ali at the Cleveland Summit, you know this was a man who put his money where his mouth was. You know, so he's just a special, complicated human being.
I don't know if this is just the way that I feel, and I'm obviously curious to your thoughts, but why do you think that people don't talk about the activist side as much about Bill Russell as they do with some of these other athlete activists?
Well, I think it's generational. I think because it happened so long ago, you know, when you look at history, and most Americans don't have a real sense of history. You know, they sort of are focused on today, you know, that's why he's sort of, you know, been marginalized. And that's was one of the important aspects of wanting to do this documentary series, these documentary films, to reacquaint, you know, America and the world with how important Bill Russell was, not only as an athlete, but as an activist off the court. And I think we've did our job. I mean, he was a special human being, very special man.
You know, Bill Russell is from my same home state. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He's from up in North Louisiana.
Monroe, I think.
Monroe. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because people would ask or would have conversations with people and they would say, well, I wonder how much of Bill Russell's activism was based upon the fact that he was in Boston at the time. And obviously Boston has a reputation of not being a place that was incredibly progressive when it comes to civil rights or to Black people. And I was like, man, you know, Bill from West Monroe, there was nothing that he saw in Boston that he didn't get back at the crib.
Exactly.
For you having spoken to him, it's not like he was here, that he moved out to California or he moved out to Chicago or someplace where there was this liberal bastion. Do you feel the continuing specter of racism that was seemingly ever present around him was the thing that pushed him to be such an activist? Are we going to learn why he thought it was so important to be that during his playing time? Yeah,
you do. I mean, you're right. He's from Louisiana, you know, bastion of racial segregation and terrorism. He goes to Oakland, which is also, you know, de facto racism and segregation. I mean, it was all around him. I mean, the thing that he had that was a very strong positive was he had a father and a grandfather who were very strong men who made him aware of what was going on and how he had to deal with it, you know, as a young man and then as an athlete. So he, you know, the racism was everywhere. You know, he couldn't escape it. I mean, you and I know, even in the 21st century, we can't escape it, you know. Right. So he knew it was always there. And he knew that instead of sort of putting his head in the sand, he had to react to it. And that's, you know, that's pretty special. I mean, you know, and I know a lot of athletes today don't want to step out there, you know, and he was one of the first to do that. You know, if you compare him to another great player, Wilt Chamberlain.
I was about to say.
You know, great basketball player. But when it came to social activism, that wasn't Wilt's style at all. Mm-hmm. That wasn't his approach, you know, and it was very different from Bill, you know. So you see it today with the athletes who supported Colin Kaepernick, or those who support LeBron, those who don't say anything. I mean, one of our greatest athletes, and I'll say his name, Michael Jordan, not a political bone in his body. You know, not just.
What? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in doing this documentary, and I'm assuming you grew up watching, Bill Russell, and you're a fan. What did you learn about him that either took you by surprise, shocked you, that you didn't know before?
Well, the biggest takeaway for me, because I did grow up in the 60s, so I was very aware of Bill Russell growing up, and in my neighborhood, we would compare who was the better center. Was it Bill or was it Wilt, Mm-hmm. And I always went on the side of Bill Russell. Mm-hmm. But what I did learn, in doing the research and prepping for this film and doing interviews was, from reading his memoirs, this guy was a very thoughtful, complicated man, and that comes through when you're listening to Jeffrey Wright read these excerpts from his books and from his articles. And then you think about one of the things that was really fascinating was, here's a guy at the top of the food chain. He wins his 11th championship against the Los Angeles Lakers in 1969. And instead of basking in the glory of that triumphant win, what does Bill Russell do? He decides to quit the Celtics. He decides to quit Boston, and he decides to walk out on his family and get in his Lamborghini and drive all the way west, to Los Angeles, California. That's pretty amazing, and it had to cause a lot of conflict and tension on all levels, both personal and professional. And I didn't know that about him until I got into this film. So that was a eye opener, Rachel, an eye opener.
He also was a trailblazer as a coach.
Yeah.
Which many people don't know or don't talk about. It's one thing to be a guy out there grabbing 22 rebounds a game as a black player. The running and jumping has never been something that they didn't realize we could do. But in terms of coaching the team and being as successful as what he was as a coach, calling the plays, being a leader of men, that was trailblazing in its own right. Talk a little bit about that and what it meant for people to see a black head coach in the city of Boston.
Well, imagine this. Here's a guy who becomes the head coach of the Boston Celtics in the town of Boston, where black people aren't exactly loved. And here's a time when you're being a player coach, where you got to not only play your position, but you got to also deal with your other players, your other teammates as the coach now. Not just as the player, but as the coach, not just as the center, And they didn't have these kinds of assistant coaches that they have in today's NBA. Bill had to do all of this stuff. I mean, it had to be a tremendous amount of pressure on him. And you saw that, the 3 years he was the coach of the Celtics, he lost the first season. He didn't make it to the championships, but then he was able to rebound and win the next two. And then he went on to be a coach at Seattle and also in Sacramento. So listen, there's a certain level of intelligence that Bill Russell had that made him not only a great center, but made him a great coach. But he had to deal, as the film says, even when he started to lead the Celtics to championships, many of the Boston fans, up until he retired, thought of Bob Cousy as the greatest Celtic of all time, But Bob Cousy says in the film, very clearly, I was the man before Bill Russell came, but when he came and led us down that road to glory, he became the man. Bob Cousy knew who the man was, even if the fans didn't, So, most people think of athletes, they used to think of athletes as just dumb jocks. But and I know, to be an athlete, you got to be thinking.
Absolutely.
You got to have a certain level of intellectual capacity to deal with plays and opposing teams and how to position yourself, position your players. So imagine he understood how to do that as a center. Then he had to understand how to do it, not only as a center, but as a coach. That's amazing. That's really pretty amazing.
Really is.
Mm-hmm.
Steph Curry says in the film, he couldn't do that. I mean, he couldn't be a coach. He can't be a coach. He understands how complicated it is to be a player coach. You don't see any player coaches anymore in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Steph Curry. How much fun did you have getting to do all these interviews and talking to, past and current players, talking to family members as well, and putting this together?
Rachel, all I can tell you, you could almost, if this was like, I'll say this. I could have done this for free. It was so much fun.
Don't say that too loud, Sam.
I know. That's why I was saying. But here, think about it. The first interviews we did was with Satch Sanders and Bob Cousy. Then we did Bill Bradley. We did Isaiah Thomas. Then we flew out west. We did Bill Walton. We did Jerry West. We went Harry Edwards. Then we did Bill Walton. Then we did Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Then I went to Florida and did Oscar Robertson. Then I came out west in San Francisco. I did Steph Curry. Then I flew down to LA and did Chris Paul. Man, okay, this is like it's not work, man. This is fun. This was like, wow, what a great job.
Amazing. So I want to ask you about something, man. When you watch, I've talked about MLK FBI on this podcast so many times, right? Mm-hmm. And to the point to where when they said, "Hey, we're having Sam Pollard on," I'm like, Rachel, remember my yeah. I was like, yes, absolutely. Okay. It is, to me, an essential watch if you want to get a deeper understanding of Dr. King, and if you want a deeper understanding of COINTELPRO and the specific efforts made to destabilize King's message and the civil rights movement as a whole. Okay. 2027 is coming up in 4 years. 2027 is the year that the FBI, that the tapes will be released. The FBI will unseal all of the things that were talked about in the MLK FBI documentary. I do not want to ruin this documentary for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it is essentially about the FBI's efforts to end Dr. King and about the intelligence that they collected on Dr. King while he was trying to change the world. For someone that did the documentary, how worried are you about the unsealing of the information in 2027?
The only thing I would say, man, is that if the FBI will do their job, and from my perspective, in the right way, they won't edit what they're going to release. They will release everything. So we have an opportunity to hear all those conversations that Dr. King had, not just the one that's supposed to be litigious, the ones that are supposed to be between him and another woman or other women or whatever. What I'm curious about is the conversations that he had with Fred Shuttlesworth or Ralph Abernathy or Jesse Jackson about strategy, about what they were going to do on certain places, like in Georgia or like this place or that place or in Memphis. I want to hear the strategies. I think that's what will be an eye-opener. Now, some people are concerned, will it, delegitimize who Dr. King was? No way. Dr. King's reputation is cemented, man. He will go down as one of the greatest global figures in world history. It'll never change. And I know a lot of people's lives are dug into and opened up and reinvestigated. And people say, oh, see this thing about JFK? Ooh, look at this about LBJ. Ooh, look at this about Dr. King. It will not change who he is and his reputation. It is cemented in stone, man. Cemented in stone. And one of the things that I always find fascinating when we were doing MLK FBI, and you mentioned COINTELPRO. Now, when I was a younger man, I used to think COINTELPRO, they were after Angela, they were after Malcolm, they were after Fred Hampton, they were after the Black Panthers. But think about it this way. William Sullivan, J. Edgar Hoover, 1956, 57, they were starting to try to figure out who Dr. King was, because this minister, from Montgomery, Alabama, who became the head of the Montgomery bus boycott was looked upon by these guys in the FBI as the most dangerous Negro in America. A gentleman who was a pacifist.
Mm-hmm.
He was a pacifist. Mm-hmm. The most and they even ratcheted it up after the March on Washington. They thought he was going to break open the gates, which he was. And this goes to show you how deeply rooted America was back then and even today in this notion about what it means to be an American. Mm. How dare Dr. King want to integrate, restaurants, public schools? How dare he? How could this is outrageous? This is criminal. This man he's got a major problem. We hear this time and time again in America. If you say defund the police, if you say Black Lives Matter, all of a sudden these become, these people are trying to destroy America. They're communist. They're leftist. They're the deep state. I mean, if I've learned anything in my 70-something years in America, is that, listening to people like Trump, his systemic racism is alive and well in America.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Rich, you have anything else?
Follow up? Oh, I thought you had a follow up. No. I'm curious. You've done so many, documentaries, and Van laid it out at the top of this on who you've done films on. Is there someone that you're interested in doing a film on, documentary, that you feel like you don't know that much about, but you're really eager for you to learn more about and then for us to learn about? Is there someone that you have in mind that you really want to go after?
There's a man named George Washington Williams who was around in the 19th century, late 1800s, who was one of the first African Americans to go to the Congo and to challenge what King Leopold was doing there and destroying Black people's lives.
Yeah,
it's a book that my wife and I found that was written by John Hope Franklin. And this guy, and there was another Black man after him, William Shepard, who also went there, from America to really make the world aware of what King Leopold was doing in the Congo.
You guys, I'm glad he dropped that name, King Leopold of Belgium. I need you guys all to read up on him and give him his historical credit for being right there. Give him his historical credit for being the madman that he was. Okay, so King Leopold of Belgium. Everybody, make sure you read up on him. I'm obsessed right now with Granville Woods.
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm. I'm obsessed with the life of Granville Woods. I'm obsessed with the life of an inventor that sued Thomas Edison twice and won. Granville Woods, 7-foot tall Black inventor. He's amazing, the Black Edison. I'm obsessed. So if you ever get around to Granville Woods, I would love to see that. If not, my company will just go ahead and we'll make a narrative movie with him, Jonathan Majors. Granville Woods, I love it. Look, I need you guys to do the work. Bill Russell Legend premiered on Netflix back in February. Everyone go check it out. It is amazing. Bill's last interview, 11-time champion as a player, 2-time champion as a coach, trailblazer, activist, all of that. Please go watch that. But watch it in tandem. Just go watch everything Sam ever did, okay? Watch MLK FBI. All right, watch it. I've told you guys several times to watch it. Please watch it. And, of course, 4 Little Girls. If my mom was on here right now, my mom would tell you the story of the first time that back in when 4 Little Girls dropped that we watched it together. Mm-hmm. Just amazing work that you and Spike did. Just some amazing work, Sam. Just all.
Well, Van, I got just before you guys drop off, I got another film that's premiering this Sunday at South by Southwest.
Give it to us.
It's called Max Roach, the Drum Also Lost.
Oh,
one of the greatest drummers, activist also, to ever grace the music. Yeah.
Now I gotta say something here that's going to be a little bit controversial.
Yeah, what's that?
Do you know who I learned who Max Roach was? It was the Cosby Show. It was the Cosby Show.
Oh, that's true. He was on the Cosby Show.
It was the Cosby Show. Like, we're not gonna get into the whole thing. Demon, crazy guy, bad, all of that.
Yeah, but he was on the Cosby Show.
Culturally, for what happened, I was a kid. Max Roach was on the Cosby Show. I'm like, who is that? My mom was like, that's the greatest drummer that ever lived. It's Max Roach. That's how I learned who Max Roach was. I've never watched it. I don't know as much about him, but I learned about him because he was on the Cosby Show. All right.
That's right. He was.
Absolutely. So I can't wait to see that. Yeah. I can't wait to see that. Sam, thank you for always,
thank you.
My pleasure, guys.
Giving flowers to the people that we really, really need to have insight on. So that's Sam Pollard. The documentaries are Bill Russell Legend, MLK FBI. What's the Sammy Davis Jr. doc I haven't seen, brother? What's the name of that one?
I've Got to Be Me. Sammy Davis Jr. I've Got to Be Me.
Sammy Davis Jr. I've Got to Be Me. And Max Roach, which is premiering.
The Drum Also Waltzes.
The Drum Also Waltzes. That's waltzes. It's tough for me. That's all. That's premiering this week, but they'll be able to probably see that. Like, when do you think? Probably
it'll be on American Masters in the fall.
In the fall. Okay. Sam Pollard, thank you for joining us on Higher Learning.
My pleasure. Take care, folks.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
Sports Corner.
Let's go.
The Ja Morant photos, I don't even think it's worth talking about.
No, that's so wrong.
Like what was he supposed to be doing in the strip club?
Right. It's so inappropriate, though, that his privacy is violated. Why y'all snapping pictures? That's not.
Ja to go
and
to
that young woman. Okay? And that young woman, not just Ja. Sorry.
She probably not sure.
Say, hey, don't assume that. Don't assume that. Don't assume that.
They should have put her Instagram on there.
Stop. Don't assume that. Not everybody who's a stripper wants that type of attention.
I'm not saying that they want some type of attention.
Or they just are trying to provide. You have no idea each person's individual situations.
I'm not saying that. Look, I'm not saying it's bad to want attention, but I mean,
you saw the Players Club.
What about it? You think that Diamond would have had? Diamond was out there.
You think Diamond would have wanted her Instagram photo up there? No, Diamond was trying to make a way out.
At the Players Club. Obviously, she's okay.
Trying to make a way.
I know. So what? No matter why she do, obviously she's okay.
That's for people inside the club paying for that. You can't get this out here for free.
But what if? But let's go back to this. What if Diamond? It got out that she was a big deal, and then everybody wanted to come to the Players Club and spend money on Diamond. I'm sure she'd be okay with that.
But they need to talk about it. Yeah, let's
have a stripper on to see whether or not. I'm sure she'd have been like, "Hey, man, tag me."
Some may have, some may not.
Right. Report came out about Colin Kaepernick. Apparently,
I mean, do we really need to get into this? I wasn't sending this to you as a topic of conversation.
Donnie put it in the thing.
I was sending it to you look at this.
Colin Kaepernick absolutely wants to play. He contacts all 32 NFL teams each year. In an interview with Adriana Diaz of CBS Morning, he says he absolutely still wants to play professional football and trains regularly.
And then gave them nothing else in the interview.
Gave them what? What do you mean gave them nothing else?
Then she went on to say, well, you had this workout where the NFL, had put together for you where you were going to come and then you chose to have your own workout. Why did you do that? And he said, you got to see the documentary.
He's got a documentary coming out.
Yeah, he has a documentary coming out. I don't know when, but he's a documentary. And then there was another question that was asked about his response to what was going on in 2020. Seeing how everybody was reacting to it. I'm assuming her question was particular to those athletes, those in sports. And he said, you got to watch the documentary, which is why this is hard to talk about because, I mean, I didn't know that he contacted all 32 teams every year. That was interesting to me. Well, that would be in the 32. I think that's interesting, but there's not really a lot to go from here. I'd love to watch the documentary and talk about it from there. I'm very curious as to what he has to say.
What did you think about people getting on him because he said that his parents had some racism in them, even though they adopted him and he was a black child and he had to deal with some racism from them?
I think he's probably right.
He's obviously right,
And he grew up in that family. So if he would know better than anybody that his parents, whether it was overt racism or covert, I know they had some biases. Like, they're not Black, so it's only natural for them to have that. Absolutely, I believe him.
You ever feel like the judge had some biases? Because he was like...
Towards who?
Towards y'all, because he was the police.
My dad is not the police.
He's definitely the police. In a way.
He's not the police.
He is your dad is law enforcement.
Do you consider him that because he's a judge or because a lawyer? Or both?
Well,
so as a lawyer?
He's the
feds. He's the feds.
He's the feds. Your dad is the feds.
He's the feds.
So what? Like, your dad knows some shit. I want to talk to him. Your dad, like your dad.
You keep talking like that, he ain't gonna talk to you.
Whoa, that's bad to say. It's bad to say that he's law enforcement.
What was the question? No, what was the question you asked me? Did my dad have any biases?
Do you feel like he has any biases? Like,
no, we ain't talked about the judge in a while.
We haven't. and it's this. You feel like there was any biases? Because I know my dad had biases. I think my dad. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think sometimes my dad had biases against Black people. I'm going to be real with you. My dad was super pro-Black, but there was certain shit I couldn't do. Like, I couldn't wear my hat backwards. I couldn't sag my pants.
I think it's generational. I would say that's generational with Black parents. No. It is anti-Black, but I think that's a generational thing, but maybe that trickles down from what their parents did to them, or, I don't know if my dad feels that way about it or not. You have to ask him.
Did he ever drug test y'all?
No.
Never, not one time?
No.
I can see that
I swear to God, he never drug tested
you guys?
He never was like, let me smell your breath if there's alcohol. Never? But honestly, I didn't do that in high school. I really didn't. I wasn't...
Do you
I had freedom to go out and do my thing, and...
Do you think that he would have ever drug tested y'all? That would be so funny. He comes in there humming like a gospel song with a cup. Here you go, Rach. What is this, Dad? Go in there and produce fluids.
No. Why does he always make him sound like somebody from the 1800s?
What? Because he's a judge and he's religious, so he speaks.
It's making me question. I'm like, why? He never did. I guess we never gave them any inclination that we were on anything else. They never asked us. My parents were never even asking me if I was having sex. Maybe they just didn't want to know.
Probably didn't.
No.
They probably didn't. Who wants to? I feel like that's a. Do parents actually jump on real quick?
Yes.
Do parents ask young women that about? Did your parents ask you? Or you out here with guys yet that they ask you that type of stuff?
Yeah, to keep me in check, to make sure that and my mom tries to make sure that I'm always doing what she wants me to do. So
what does that mean?
Like now they ask you, or back in in high school, were they asking you about?
I mean, it wasn't like she was like too detailed about what she wanted to hear, but she was just making sure that I wasn't getting too crazy.
Getting too crazy. Like she's like, Ashley, spit it out. Well, what is it? What does it mean? What does getting too crazy mean?
She's just trying to make sure I'm a good Christian teenager growing up,
Oh, so she's like, yo, what was the name of your boyfriend in high school? What was his name? Brock?
I dated a guy for a bit, and his name was Jeremiah.
Oh, no. Hell no. Biblical. Nah. Yeah, she was definitely trying to see, because those be the ones that be up. They always looking out for the Marcuses, right? And the Jalens. But it be the Jeremiahs that be trying to knock down the walls of Jericho. You know what I'm saying? It always been up. And so did your mom meet him? Was she friends with him?
Absolutely not. No, she did not meet this boy.
Why?
Because he was annoying, and I knew she was not going to like him very much. So if she didn't like him, then I was that's not going to happen.
If he was annoying, why did you date him? Was he white?
No, he's Black. He was a basketball player. That's why I dated him. He was super tall. and my friends liked him a lot. Oh. Gosh, he had to be almost like at least like close to 7 foot. I don't know exactly.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he was tall.
Whoa.
He was tall.
Jeremiah, what was his last name? I wonder where he went.
Stop.
Hold on.
He's not a basketball player anymore. I think.
Well, then he must be. We gotta get Jeremiah on here because if this nigga was like a footer, Donnie, jump on. If this nigga was like a legit footer, he has to not be able to walk in a straight line. Not
he
to
was
have gone
so
to college.
tall. It was so weird. He wasn't good at basketball either.
I've had one of those. I remember I was dating this guy in high school and I went to go see him play and I was shocked.
That he sucked.
He was probably like 6'4". I couldn't believe it. I had never seen, he was discombobulated in a way that I just can't even explain. I could have gone out there and played better than him.
That's how I felt about Jeremiah. It was weird. It was because our whole basketball team, the guys were very, very bad at basketball. And so it just was like, they barely knew how to dribble a ball. And it's just, we're watching them and we're like, we're against our rival team. And you guys make us want to go to the other team and cheer them on.
I would have gone to the other team.
Yeah, I was like, oh man.
Just imagine having to feed somebody that's 7 feet tall and they don't know how to play. That's crazy.
Like, get out the house, go feed yourself.
Yeah,
I wonder what he's doing in life.
I wonder what he's doing. He probably has a tough life.
Yeah.
I'll have to check Facebook.
If he's that tall and he can't hoop at all, wait, she didn't lost touch with this nigga. Wait till we see this nigga in the G League or something.
He really is playing
Last I checked, he was like going to college to like, I think he studied English or something. I don't know. It was something completely out of box that I didn't even know.
It's going to be so funny. It's going to be like, yeah.
Like he's like NBA player.
What made you pick up the ball again? Well, I had this girlfriend and she was just real, real mean about my game. And so this summer I got with Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay, anyway, bye, Ashley.
Bye.
All right, time for Is This Fucked Up? We have two. We could either do Tim's Oscarville.
No, you got to do the second one. You got to do the second one.
25 employees walk out after Pennsylvania restaurant owner names drinks the Negro and the Caucasian. According to the Gettysburg Times, at least 24 employees left when Donald Hoffman, owner of Mila Kitchen at Jack's Hard Cider, decided to serve oddly named cocktails in the theater that operates out of the same site. Many employees who expressed their frustration said that Hoffman wanted them to serve drinks with names such as the Caucasian and the Negro. Myself and most of my coworkers walked out on Friday due to the owner and heads of production at Jack's Cider pushing for some racist cocktail names from Emily K. Kessler on Facebook, an ally. Despite a days of effort from upper management to halt this cocktail name, Friday comes and it's time to reveal the weekend special. I made a formal complaint to upper management and notified them that if the name isn't changed or the staff is walking out. An email was sent to Donald explaining him of his of our plan, and his reaction was explosive. Many of the other operation employees made similar complaints on Facebook. We had issues with the owner. Jesus Christ. Sexually harassing employees and wanting us to serve cocktails under racially insensitive names such as Caucasian, Redneck, and Negro. All right.
Russian and Negro. Caucasian, Redneck, Russian.
Caucasian, Redneck, Russian, and Negro. Okay.
This is so funny to me. It's not, but it is.
It's like Negro and Caucasian.
Can you imagine going up and saying, I'll take two Negroes.
Two Negroes. That's slavery shit. Donnie, question. Are you there?
Right here.
What do you think goes in a Negro?
I was contemplating this.
Make that your question of the week.
That's a good question. I mean, there's got to be some kind of, I would say, a Hennessy or a Crown Royal, maybe Crown Royal.
Okay.
And I don't know what the garnish would be. I don't know. I'm not a mixologist. I don't know exactly what would make a good drink, but Crown has to be, I think, some kind of cognac or Crown or Hennessy as the base liquor. What would be in a Caucasian?
Oh shit. Okay,
it's vodka.
These are my two. This is the Negro and the Caucasian to me. The Caucasian is vodka, milk. Okay.
What kind of drink is this?
This is what it is. This is Caucasian. Vodka, whole milk. All right. You garnish it with just a little bit of chicken boiled on the glass. You don't put nothing on it. And you need something else in there. That's it for the Caucasian. This is what's in the Negro. This is a great drink. You got Hennessy mixed with red Kool-Aid. Okay.
This does sound good.
It sounds good. Think about it. Hennessy mixed with red Kool-Aid. You garnish it.
With a watermelon.
Boom. Hennessy, red Kool-Aid, garnish it with the watermelon. We got to come back to this Caucasian. What else could be in it? Vodka and milk. You got to have whole milk in it because white people are the only ones that are still keeping the whole milk industry alive.
Some kind of pumpkin spice.
Okay, cool. Oh,
that's a good one.
You do pumpkin spice milk. All right. You do pumpkin spice milk in the Caucasian. Keep going. What else do white people like? What do they like?
They like to put raisins and weird stuff.
Oh! Sprinkle some raisins in there. Okay. All right. Like, keep it going. Rachel, what do all your friends like to drink?
Stop.
What are they?
Doesn't this drink have enough at this point?
Nah, they just like to throw shit in.
Put something around the rim. Something could go around the rim. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to think.
Like, what do you put around the rim? Like a little noose?
Maybe we put like a cotton candy.
Oh, but shouldn't that be in the? Wait, we're getting confused.
Whatever.
So does the cotton candy go in the Negro or the
Maybe
Caucasian?
it's it goes in it. No.
See, which one would you put? See what I'm saying?
Oh, shit.
Well, this is the cotton candy because they don't know nothing about no motherfucking cotton. We move
it back to the Negro.
Mm-hmm. Back to we're gonna put cotton in the Negro. Okay, we're going for it. Fuck it. We put cotton in the fuck it.
Candy.
Cotton candy on there. See, that's better. That's the garnish. A little cotton candy on the Negro. Right?
Yeah, emphasis on the cotton.
Emphasis on the cotton.
We got raisins, milk. I mean, raisins, I know this sounds disgusting, spice. But maybe what you put around the edge, if we're going with milk, a little mayo.
Oh, that's it. So this is what we do. This is what the Caucasian is. It's a mayo, milk. See, when we come together, guys, it's a mayo, milk, and pumpkin spice infused vodka drink.
You forgot the raisins.
With the raisins. We put the raisins in there.
Garnish, like the raisins just, sprinkled on top.
And for all of you guys wondering, that drink tastes just like we felt having to deal with the bullshit. All right. It's over. By the way, I would like to announce something. Van's very serious question of the week is done. It's no more.
What?
Just like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Just say we came up with a question. What would you put in? How would you make your Negro?
Yeah, how would
you make your Caucasian?
Yeah, but it's gotta die. We're gonna take a hard look at segments, and we'll make a decision about them. And I think we need some new segments. I think we need one segment we can do is an Ashley story, because Ashley's story was great about the 7-foot nigga who
Jeremiah.
came down.
And people want to get to know Ashley. I like that.
People love Ashley. You know what I'm saying? People think Ashley's great.
I'd like to.
They do?
Oh, sorry. Keep going. Yes, Ashley, people like you.
Yeah, you're a mystery. You know what I'm saying? Like you're a mystery right now to a lot of people because they feel like they want to know more about you, but at the same time, they're bored by you. You know.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, I like to dedicate this episode of Higher Learning to my Uncle David, to his memory. You know, I also want to tell my mother and my grandmother to be strong and that I love you guys. And that part of what I'll do and what I'll endeavor to do, despite my earlier comments on Angela Bassett and the Oscars, is to make a world where you don't have to absorb so many body blows. All right, so rest in peace, Uncle David. Take your thinking caps off, but do not stop learning. I'm Van Lathan Jr.
And I'm Rachel Lynn Lindsay.
Bye, guys.